All right, let's talk about a critical tool for anyone serious about cybersecurity, your Proxmox pen test lab. The goal here is pretty simple. We're going to transform that lab from something that just eats up your time into a powerful, reliable training partner. We're going to do this by going through some hard-won lessons, so you can skip the mistakes and get right to the good stuff. And this right here, this quote really gets to the heart of it. It was never about the money spent on some hardware. No, the real cost, the one that actually stings, is losing your most valuable asset, your time. Those precious weekends you carve out for studying shouldn't be spent wrestling with a setup that's always on the verge of breaking.
So you got to ask yourself, when you sit down to practice, is your lab a trusted arena where you can experiment and break things without fear? Or is it more like a fragile museum of half-working virtual machines that you're too scared to even touch? The difference between those two is everything, and that's the gap we're going to close today.
So first up, we're going to walk through what I call the gauntlet of mistakes. Think of these as 7 really common, almost invisible traps that can just absolutely wreck your lab's stability, and honestly, your confidence along with it.
Mistake number 1, trying to save a few bucks by underbuying your hardware, especially the CPU and RAM. Now look at this chart. It visualizes what I call the time tax. If your lab is under-spec'd, you could be wasting 70% of your time just waiting. We're talking 20, 30, even 40 minutes of every single session just gone. But with the right specs, that whole thing flips. You spent your time actually learning.
And this quote is just perfect, right? It totally nails the absurdity of it. When your lab is grinding to a halt, your first instinct is to blame your tools, your Nmap scan, your script, but that's like blaming the books when the power is out. The real problem is the foundation just isn't there.
Okay, next up, picking your storage based on, a vibe, whatever seems easiest in the moment. This is one of those quiet mistakes that gets really, really loud right when you can't afford it to. If you don't have a snapshot strategy from day one, you're going to end up with a lab that just won't boot, and you can bet it'll happen right as your study window opens.
Mistake number 3 is a big one: networking without a story. Look, setting up one giant flat network is fast, I get it, but it's completely useless for practicing what pen testers actually do, which is pivot through different network segments. A segmented lab, even a simple one, forces you to practice enumeration and pivoting discipline. That's the whole point.
All right, let's talk about the mistake that causes the most heartburn: having zero snapshot discipline. Picture this. You're deep in a complex Active Directory lab. You make one tiny change to a group policy, and boom, nothing works. Services are dead, trust relationships are shattered, your entire week's setup is just toast.
Now, the old way to fix this is just soul-crushing. It's a multi-hour manual rebuild from scratch. You're just sitting there, staring at the clock, knowing that your precious study time is literally evaporating while you try to remember every single command and setting.
But here's the magic. The new way, with good snapshot discipline, turns that week-nuking disaster into a 5-minute inconvenience. You just roll back to a clearly labeled, stable snapshot and you're back in business. This isn't just a technical fix, you guys. It's an emotional one. It gives you the freedom to experiment and break things without fear.
And let's just rapid fire through the last 3 time leaks. Number 5, Artisan VM mode, where you build every single virtual machine by hand instead of using templates. Number 6, blurring isolation and accidentally exposing your vulnerable lab machines to your home network. That's a huge security no-no. And 7, premature automation, trying to build a rocket launch system when you haven't even mastered riding a bike.
Okay, enough doom and gloom. We've seen the problems, now let's talk solutions. We are officially flipping the script and moving into the toolkit of powerful, actionable fixes that are going to give you the stable, reliable lab you actually deserve.
So for those hardware and storage mistakes, here is your literal blueprint. A used mini PC is a fantastic place to start. The absolute best learning per dollar move you can make is getting at least 32 gigs of RAM. And for your SSD, don't just look at size, prioritize endurance, because you're going to be hammering it with snapshots. This is your shopping list. Go.
And the fix for all that networking chaos? It's a concept before it's a configuration. It's all about defining your network intent. Before you click a single button, just map out these 3 zones. Where do your attacker machines live? Where are the targets? And how are you going to manage the whole thing? This one step brings instant clarity.
And here it is, the fix for that lack of discipline. Just think of it as your snapshot insurance policy. It's 3 simple rules. 1, before you do anything risky, take a snapshot. 2, after you hit a stable milestone, take a snapshot and label it properly. And 3, once a week, just clean out the old ones you don't need. That's it. It'll save you hours of pain.
All right, let's take all this theory and turn it into something you can actually do, like today. This is your blueprint for action. We're going to build a stable baseline lab, and we're going to do it in just 90 minutes. This isn't about building the perfect lab. It's about building a reliable starting point, fast. And here's how that 90-minute sprint breaks down. 20 minutes, that's it, to get Proxmox installed and updated. 20 more to set up your basic network zones. Another 20 to create your first Kali or Parrot template. And then you've got a solid 30 minutes to clone from that template and run some basic checks. See? Totally manageable. And once you're done, run these final quality control checks, your smoke tests. Can your attacker box actually ping the targets? Super important. Can your targets reach your home network? The answer to that had better be a loud no. Does restoring from a snapshot actually work? And finally, check your disk space. Is it under 80%? This is what makes sure your baseline is actually stable.
So let's zoom out and pull all of this together. We're not just talking about technical fixes here, we're talking about a philosophy. This is about making a fundamental shift from a state of chaos to a state of total confidence, where your lab is an asset that works for you, not against you.
And I love this slide because it shows the whole methodology as a stack. You start with a solid hardware floor. That's non-negotiable. On top of that, you build a smart storage strategy. Then you define your network zones. You bake in reversibility with snapshots. You make builds repeatable with templates. And only then, at the very top, do you start worrying about your actual practice workflows. Each layer supports the one above it.
So if you only take one single thing away from all of this, let it be this. A small, stable lab that you can trust and reset in under 5 minutes is infinitely more valuable than some huge, complicated, fragile lab that you're too afraid to even use. Stability beats complexity every single time.
And that philosophy really boils down to these 3 core missions for your lab. First, earn complexity. Don't just start with it. Second, design everything for reversibility from day 1. And third, keep your lab isolation absolutely, positively non-negotiable.
So I'll leave you with this question. After seeing all these common pitfalls and the powerful fixes, what's the very first thing you're going to do to make your lab start protecting your time instead of just consuming it?